In recent years, China has been loudly proclaiming its achievements in the field of military technology, especially boasting of breakthroughs in the development of stealth drones. However, the facts show that China's actual progress in this area lags far behind the propaganda claims. A comical scene is unfolding on Changxing Island. Two plastic mock-ups of the allegedly stealth drone GJ-11 are being tested on landing ships. Why not test the real GJ-11 in an aircraft carrier environment? The answer is obvious. China is seriously behind in stealth drone technology. By comparison, the US Navy successfully landed an unmanned X-47B on the aircraft carrier George H.W. Bush 11 years ago. What is the GJ-11? In terms of basic parameters, it looks like a fighter with a flying wing layout similar to the Chinese Rainbow 5 drone. Its main purpose is ground attack, reconnaissance, and jamming. The main claimed advantage is stealth technology. However, no reliable data on the effective scattering area, EDA, has been officially published. Chinese media outlets unreasonably assume that the GJ-11's EPR is 0.01 to 0.1 square meters. Even if this is true, there is nothing to brag about. The F-35 with similar dimensions has a much smaller EPR, 0.005 square meters, not to mention the ultra-low EPR of the F-22 and B-2 to 0.0 square meters. Some Chinese media claim that the flying wing scheme alone is sufficient for stealth, with stealth coatings further improving performance. If it were that simple, Chinese stealth bombers would already be in service. Their absence clearly shows the ineffectiveness of Chinese stealth technology. During the border conflict with India, two supposedly invisible J-20s were easily detected by Indian Su-30MKIs. The GJ-11's design clearly attempts to mimic the American B-21, but at half the length and 3 times the width. Obviously, the Chinese are trying to reduce the EPR by reducing the size. For comparison, the American X-47B of similar dimensions has better stealth than the B-2. Why didn't the US continue its development? Probably fearing copying by China. They classified the technology. After all, the existing US stealth aircraft are sufficient to counter China. China also boasts that the SCA-11 drone can passively detect various stealth targets at a great distance. However, such claims should be treated with skepticism. The effectiveness of modern detection systems is highly dependent on the level of electronic components. Chinese military chips may be adequate at the macro level, but have serious shortcomings in precision detection tasks. Therefore, when the PRC claims target detection range, this figure should probably be divided by at least half. In real-world encounters, Chinese equipment often fails to detect the enemy before they detect themselves. So why do they claim otherwise on the internet? Simply to divert attention from their shortcomings. Compounding the situation is the fact that China's lauded data sharing system has long been studied by the US military. Last year, a senior official at the US Pacific Command publicly expressed interest in the vulnerabilities of the Chinese system and a desire to investigate how to disrupt their data transmissions. After such statements, it is not surprising to find that experts are already working on the problem. A system that has been targeted by the US military is unlikely to perform well in real combat. One would have to be very naive to believe that China can surpass the US in stealth technology. China has the GJ-11, but that is probably the maximum of their capabilities. Moreover, an examination of the GJ-11's design shows that it borrows elements not only from the B-21, but also from the US X-47B and RQ-170 drones. Moreover, the RQ-170 was introduced back in 2007. Ultimately, the PRC is trying to fool American radars with a small drone with a flying wing configuration and stealth coating, believing that if their radars have trouble detecting it, so will American radars. But they forget that the true power of US military technology is hard to assess from the outside. During Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan in 2022, the US deployed the Growler electronic warfare aircraft. Despite claims of its allegedly inferior performance compared to the Chinese J-16D in a real-world confrontation, the Growler easily controlled and suppressed the J-16D. On July 30 of that year, 3 Chinese ro-ro vessels mysteriously veered off course, which experts attributed to possible electromagnetic interference from the United States. Insiders in U.S. military circles have disclosed that even a single Aegis ship can affect the entire global electromagnetic environment. Faced with such a significant technological gap, isn't it time for the PRC to reevaluate its position? The PRC shamelessly claims that the GJ-11 is the world's first operational stealth attack drone, and arguably the first stealth drone. However, the American X-47B made its maiden flight in 2011, while the GJ-11 didn't make its parade debut until 2019, a full 8 years behind. As for the title of first stealth aircraft, the GJ-11 is even less deserving of the title. In hindsight, the U.S. Air Force's Project Loyal Wingman was a true pioneer in the field. The concept was proposed by the U.S. military in 2015, and Boeing's prototype for the Australian Air Force successfully flew on February 27, 2020. The main reason why the PRC is placing a big bet on deploying GJ-11 drones on aircraft carriers is due to the poor performance of their existing UAV aircraft. They hope that the anticipated stealth capabilities and longer range of the GJ-11 can compensate for the shortcomings in the detection range and stealth of their DRDO aircraft. Ideally, an aircraft carrier group equipped with GJ-11s would have a missile targeting range of at least 400 kilometers, with the drones detecting targets on the leading edge and relaying the information back to the carrier ship. At first glance, this plan seems attractive. With drones, Chinese aircraft carriers could strike from a greater distance and gain an advantage in stealth. In practice, however, this seemingly simple scheme faces many difficulties. Recently, China Central Television showed a 3D animation of a GJ-11 drone taking off and landing on a Type 075 landing ship, prompting widespread speculation. Observers wonder, if the GJ-11 has indeed been in service for some time and China has its own aircraft carriers, why not film the actual takeoff and landing instead of creating a virtual animation? This raises doubts about the Pele's ability to meet the challenges of autonomous drone landings in the face of raging seas and a rocking aircraft carrier deck. In reality, this animation may emphasize the PRC's difficulty in achieving an actual takeoff and landing of the GJ-11 at sea. Despite actively promoting it, they have not provided an actual demonstration video, instead using animation to conceal the truth. Landing a drone on an aircraft carrier is much more complicated than the animation would suggest. It requires a long detection range, stable and reliable data transmission, and the drone itself must adapt to the complex environment of the aircraft carrier and land safely on the deck. This places very high demands on the drone's design and flight control systems. In conclusion, the story of the GJ-11 drone is a prime example of PRC military propaganda. Impressive on the surface, but devoid of real substance. They may think that showing models and animations will fool people, but in today's information-saturated world, such paper tiger propaganda is more likely to be exposed. Let's see what tricks the PRC will come up with next. Will it suddenly announce the successful takeoff and landing of the GJ-11 on an aircraft carrier, or declare that it can fight in space? After all, bragging is worthless, so we can just sit back and watch. Let's wait and see if they can actually achieve real results. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting content. I wish you to always be aware of the latest events and technological advances. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.